Assalamualaikum everyone, this is Safiullah Sheikh from Alpha Learning, and today we're going to solve October-November 2025 paper 2-1 of mathematics O levels, that is syllabus 4024, syllabus D. Now let's start with question number 1. Question number 1 states that we need to write a square number. What are square numbers? That when you apply a square root on it, it should give you a perfect integer. So what we can say is 49 is basically a perfect square of 7. So 14 root of 49, that gives us 7. Hence 49 is going to be the answer for this case. We need to write a cube number. The same logic, when you apply a cube root on any specific number, it should give you a perfect integer. So we know 27 is a cube of 3, so we can say 3 cube, that gives us 27. Hence 27 is a cube number. We need to write a factor of 26. Now what are factors of 26? We can say it's 1 and 26, and then it's 2 and 13. So these are certain specific factors of 26. Now, do we see any of these four numbers directly? No, we don't spot it. But then maybe we have any of this answer in any different format. So we know that root of 169 is equivalent to 13. That means root of 169 is going to be a factor of an irrational number. Now keep in mind, we need to write all of these from the list. That means we need to answer from this format only, right? Now the last one is an irrational number. These are such square roots or cube roots that when you solve this, it may give you a decimal answer, and you may need a calculator to solve this, right? And so what we say is root of 8 is going to be irrational. Why? Because root of 69 is 13. 169 is 13. So root of 8 is going to be an irrational number. So we say it's going to be root of 8. Question number 2. Question number 2 states that we need to insert one set of brackets to make the calculation correct. Now for this question, you may need to do trial and error. If you're smart enough, you may be able to find this directly, but if not, you may need to put in you may need to do trial and error by placing brackets randomly, right? So it's up to you on how you want to solve this. Now let's suppose if we apply brackets over here, and we'll cross check if you're doing it correctly. Now 4.2 minus 3, that's going to give you 1.2, and 1.2 into 5 plus 1.2, that gives you what? That gives you 6 plus 1.2, which is equals to 7.2. That means we are doing it correctly. Now for part B, similarly, we need to solve it, but before we solve it, we'll simplify this. Now how can we simplify? We can say it's going to be 5 minus 3 square is 9, minus cube root of 64 is going to be 4, plus 2, and that should give us minus 10. Now how do we get minus 10? Now we need to keep in mind, for addition or subtraction, it doesn't matter much. When we add those, it's going to give you this correct answer, same answer always, when you apply bottomless rule, right? It doesn't matter much. So that means when I'm going to apply a bracket, it may not help much in certain scenarios. Now brackets would be efficient when you place brackets somewhere between the number and the sign. Let's suppose like this or something like this, right? So again, it's we can do trial and error, and I feel like, or what we can do is, we can maybe try brackets after a negative sign. Let me think. Maybe here. Yeah, maybe here. Let's see. Now what is this going to give us? Let's cross check. 5 minus 9, that is going to give you minus 4, and then we have a negative sign, and 4 plus 2, that's going to give you 6, so which is going to be minus 10. That means we are doing it correctly. Hence the bracket is going to be after this negative sign and after this too, right? Now question number 3, this seems to be a question from nets. It says, in this question all the lengths are in centimeters. The diagram shows the net of a cuboid. Now in the first part, it says we are supposed to find the area of a cuboid. Now to find the area of a cuboid, now this length is going to be same as this 3, and this 3. Now this 4.7 is going to be same all the way for this part, and this part as well, right? 4.7. Now what else do we know? We need to check that. Now how do we find the other sides? Now why are we finding this? Because we need to find the surface area of all these shapes, and then we need to add these, and these are basically rectangles, and rectangles are L into B, length into breadth. That means all the rectangles are supposed to be multiplied with the 2 dimensions of itself. Now so for that, we're trying to find all the dimensions, right? Now what is this length going to be? Now this length is going to be same as this length. Why? Because when you close this net, these two lengths would meet together. So this is going to be 5.2, This one's going to be 5.2, same as the other ones. This is 5.2, right? Now what else are we left with? We are left with this shape. Now for this side we need to understand that it's going to be same as 3. Now you may be arguing, sir, that these do not seem to be same. For that, the examiners mentioned that the diagram is not as per scale, and the base is going to be same as the top part, so these dimensions are going to be same. Now this is also going to be 3, right? Now what we're going to do is we will multiply 3 and 5.2. So 3 into 5.2 gives us what? 3 into 5.2 gives us 15.6. Right, so this is going to be 15.6. So we'll do 3 into 5.2, but now this will be multiplied twice. Why? Because this shape is going to be same as this shape, so multiplied by 2, multiplied by 2, plus what else can we do? We can say that this shape is going to be same as this shape, and this is what? This is basically 4.7 into 5.2 and multiplied by 2, because we have two such shapes. And the third step is going to be where this shape would be same as this shape, and the dimension, not this one, sorry, this shape is going to be same as this shape, and the dimensions are going to be 4.7 into 3 into 2 plus 4.7 into 3 into 2. That's how you find the surface area, and the total surface area, you need to add these together. So it's going to be 3 into 5.2, 3 into 5.2 into 2, uh, plus 4.7 into 5.2, where's it? 5.2 into 2 plus 4.7 into 3 into 2. Now this gives us 108.28. So the answer is 108.28. That's how you solve it. Now part B says write down number of planes of symmetry of the cuboid. Now how do we solve this part? Now since this is a cuboid, we need to understand what type of shape would this form. Let's just randomly draw any cuboid. Let's suppose this is a cuboid, a 3D shape of cuboid, alright? Now, how many lines of symmetry would this cuboid have? Now, think of it like slicing this shape from this part, like this. Let's suppose you're slicing it from here like a bread. You're cutting it from the center. So that could be one plane of symmetry. What could be the other plane of symmetry? This could be your second plane of symmetry when you cut it from this side, and the third one could be this plane of symmetry. So there are going to be 3 planes of symmetry for this case, and we cannot form any more planes of symmetry. Now planes are going to be drawn in this manner if you want to draw completely, but the examiner never expects you to draw the planes of symmetry, right? Now part 4, it says the table shows the examination marks for mathematics and physics for each of 9 students, and it further states that complete the scatter diagram. The first 6 points have been plotted for you. These points have been plotted already. Now we need to draw the last 3. That's going to be 60 and 55. Now 60 and 55 is going to be 60 and 55 is going to be somewhere here, and then it says 45 and 37. 45 and 37 is going to be here, and then it's supposed to be 78 and 71. So 78 and 71. Now 78 would be over here, 2 points, and 71 is going to be right here, right? Now what does it further say? It further states that on the grid draw a line of best fit. Now we need to draw a line of best fit. How are you going to draw a line of best fit? Let me show it to you real quick. Let me snap this. Here we go. Right, let's draw a line of best fit. Now line of best fit is going to be something like this. See, now you need to make sure that you satisfy as many points as you can, and it's going to look something like this, right? Now somewhere around here, I guess. Now this is going to be appropriate. Now we are not going to consider this point. Why? Because this seems to be like an outlier, so we will be drawing a line of best fit somewhere around here. It satisfies like most of the points. All right, this would probably satisfy most of the points. Something like this seems to be the line of best fit. Now, what can we do? Um, it further states it further states that on the grid below we are done. It further says that this person scored 75 marks in physics exam but was absent for mathematics exam. Use your line of best fit to estimate his marks. So 75 marks are for what? These are for physics marks, and then we need to find marks for maths. Now we are going to see what we're going to do. Now we will be drawing a straight line at 75. What will we do? We will draw a straight line at 75, something like this, and wherever it intersects, then we will further read the marks from the x-axis, which would potentially look something like this, right? This mark, and then this on the other side would seem to be um, one sec. This would look something like this. Now for us, these marks turn out to be 78, I believe, right? Now this is going to be 78. Now, yep. Now this is going to be 78 for us. Let's do the next part. Question number 5 states the diagram shows an isosceles triangle and we are to work out the value of x. Now since this is an isosceles triangle, we know that this angle x, now this angle would be same as this angle, which is going to be x, and we know that in an isosceles triangle, since these two angles are going to be x, and then what we can do is we can form an equation by saying x plus 56 is going to be equals to 180, because it's a triangle, all three angles of a triangle is going to be 180. So what we're going to do is 180 minus 56 and then divide by 2 to find the value of x, and the value of x is going to be 62 for this case. All right, now we need to find value of y. If this is 62, we know that the whole thing is going to be 360, so we would just be applying 360 minus 62. That is going to give us 298. Let's work out part 6. Now question number 6 says we are to solve 12 minus cube root of 6 over 0.3 square. So let's do it. 12 minus cube root of 6, that is going to give us what? Cube root of 6 divided by 0.3 square. Now this value would give us 113.14. Now 113.14. Now how did I solve this? I just used my calculator, and if you're unaware, what we're going to do is cube root of 6 is going to give us, that is going to be 1.817. So 12 minus 1.817 upon, that's going to be 0.3 square, which is somewhere around 0.09. Right, let's move on. It says work out the size of an interior angle of a regular decagon. Now the formula to find out uh, the sum of angles of any polygon is going to be n minus 2 times 180, and since it's a regular polygon, so we can divide it with n to find value of each interior polygon, each interior angle. So it's going to be 10 minus 2 times of 180 over 10, which is going to give us what? 8 into 180 divided by 10, and that's going to be 144. Let's solve question number 8. Question number 8 says that John invests $240 in an account that pays simple interest at a rate of 2.35%. We need to calculate the total amount of interest he receives at the end of 5 years. Now, what the examiner is demanding is the total amount of interest, so do not get confused by the word total amount, right? Now, how do we calculate total amount of interest? For the case of simple interest, it's going to be I is equals to PRT upon 100, where P is going to be $240, and then we multiply it with the rate. The rate is going to be 2.35% multiplied with the time, that is going to be 5 years upon 100. Since all the units seem to be in yearly basis, 2.35% per year, and 5 years as well. So it's going to be 240 into 2.35 into 5 and divided by 100. So the answer turns out to be 28.2. That is our interest that we're supposed to calculate. Question number 9. Question number 9 says the exchange rate between euros and pounds is 1 euro is equals to 0.88 pounds. The exchange rate between dollars and pounds is $1 is equals to X amount of pounds. Now, Link changes 500 euros into dollars and then she receives $536. We are supposed to calculate the value of X. So, what are we going to do is now, since these are three different quantities or three different currencies rather, so what I'll do is I'll write it down like this. If the first conversion is euros and pounds, so it's going to be like this, where 1 euro is 0.88, and then the other conversion is for dollars and pounds, and we know one is equivalent to X. Now it says that Link changes 500 euros into dollars, and she receives 536.58 value, right? What does she receive? Let's say for this case, what we can say is that Link changes 500 euros. So she changes it like this, 500 euros into an unknown amount, and then she receives 536.58. So what we'll say, we'll find this value, and this value will be equivalent to 536, right? For this case. So we solve it to find the value over here first, and this will turn out to be this has to be what? This has to be y is equals to 500 times 0.88, and this would give us what? This would give us 440. Right, this is 440 what? 440 pounds. So we will write it here, and this is going to be 440, and then this value is equivalent to $536.58. So we write $536.58, and we do cross multiplication over here to further solve this. So it's going to be X is equals to no, actually it's going to be 536. This is going to be 536.58. 58 is equals to 440, and the value for X will be what? That will be 440 over 536.58. Let's see, divide by 536.58, and this gives the answer as 0.82. So the value for X is going to be 0.82. Question number 10. Question number 10 says that we have a pattern and it shows four different patterns, and then we need to complete the table. And how do we complete the table? We need to basically find out the number of dots. So if we have a look from 5 to 9, we can say it's plus 4, and then from 9 to 13 it's plus 4 as well. That shows that this is an arithmetic progression. That means it's going to be plus 4 over here. So 13 plus 4 gives us 17, and when you add further 4 to it, it should give us 21. Part B says find an expression in terms of dots in pattern n. Now for the same case, since it's going to be an arithmetic progression, the formula is Tn is equals to a plus n minus 1 bracket times t, where the value of a is going to be the first number of the sequence, that is 5, plus n minus 1, and d is the common difference, which is going to be 4. The common difference, because it's plus 4, we write it as 4. When you solve this, it's going to be 5 plus 4 times n minus 4, so it's going to be plus 4 n minus 4, and it's going to be what? 5 minus 4 is going to give us 1, and that is plus 4n, and it's going to be 4n plus 1. Part C. Part C states that Nada needs 1105 dots to make pattern P. Now what we know is that over here what we're doing is we had these as the number of dots and n was the pattern number, right? Now since we have the number of dots, that means what we are doing is we know 1105 as the number of dots. That should be equivalent to the formula for n plus 1, and we can find the pattern P from here, where n would be equivalent to P. So what we can say is 1105. It's going to be 1105 minus 1 is equals to 4 times p, and the value of p is going to be 1104 over 4. That is going to give us 1104 divided by 4. That's going to give us 276. P is going to be 276. Question 11. Question 11 states that A is the point minus 4 and 3 and B is the point 2 and minus 7. We need to find the value of AB. Now, how can we find AB? Now, AB is basically, since this is a vector column vector form, we solve this in terms of position vectors. We know it's always going to be second minus first. Now, what is the second vector or the second alphabets? That's OB. That's B basically, but we write it in terms of position vectors, so it's going to be OB minus OA. So whenever we solve column vectors with the help of position vectors, we use second minus first, and the second alphabet is B and the first alphabet is A. So what are the coordinates? The coordinates for OB are going to be 2 and minus 7, and similarly the column vector for A, that is OA, is going to be position vector, sorry, that is going to be minus 4 and 3. So what is 2 minus minus 4? That gives us 6. And what is minus 7 minus 3? That is minus 10. So this should give us 6 and minus 10 over here. Part 2. Um, Part 2 says find the coordinates of the midpoint of AB. Now, how do you find midpoints of AB? We use a general formula of coordinate geometry that is going to be x1 plus x2 over y1 plus y2 over 2. So x1 plus x2 over 2, comma y1 plus y2 over 2, and this is going to be what? This will turn out to be minus 4 plus 2 over 2, comma 3 and minus 7. 3 minus 7 over 2. So minus 4 plus 2, that is minus 2 over 2. That should be minus 1. 3 minus 7 is minus 4 over 2. That should be minus 2. Now CD says we need to find the magnitude of CD. Right, as you can see the modulus sign, that means we are supposed to find the magnitude of the length. So for that, the general formula for column vectors is x squared plus y square with a root on both. So it's going to be root of 5 square, that is minus 5 actually, minus 5 square plus root of 11 square, and that should give me root of 25 plus 121, and that would be what? Root of 25 plus 121. That gives me root of 146, which is 12.08. So it should be 12.08, and this was root of 146 basically, right? Now, question number 12 states we have to write 0.0142 in standard forms, and the numbers in the calculation, all right, the first part actually, part 8, 0.0 0142, and we need to know that the decimal always comes after first digit, so not here, it should rather be here, right? So it should be written as 1.42, but we are still unsure of the power that we're going to apply due to the standard format. Since we are moving 2 on the right hand side, that means we need to reduce 2 from the power, so it's going to be into 10 power minus 2 because we moved 2 units to the right. So it's going to be minus 2 as the power because we're moving on the right hand side. Part B states the number in calculation are written in standard form. Find the value of x and the value of y. So this is x and y. So we need to make this the subject. So this number will be moving on the other side and it will be divided. And this would become what? It would be 2.6 into 10 power 3 over 3.2 into 10 power minus 4 is equivalent to x into 10 power y. X into 10 power y. Now we can solve 2.6 over 3.2 when we divide 2.6, or actually we can solve the whole thing on the calculator. So since this is calculator version, so we can do 2.6 into 10 power 3 divided by 3.2 into 10 power minus 4, and this gives us 8,125,000. So the answer for this is 8,125, and then it's 000. Now we need to write this in standard form so that we can write it in this format. So we need to understand that standard form always comes after one number, the one digit. So how many numbers are we moving? At the moment the decimal was over here because it was a whole number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're moving 6 numbers. So it's going to be 8.125 exponent 6, and this was x into 10 power y. Hence, the value of x is going to be 8.125, and the value for y is going to be positive 6. Moving on, question number 13. Question number 13 says that we need to solve the simultaneous equations, and we need to solve, or we need to show all of our workings. Now, I prefer elimination method for such cases. What we can do is, as we know that the signs are opposite over here, so we'll try to eliminate b. So when we try to eliminate b, we need to multiply this whole thing with 10, and we need to multiply this whole thing with 5. And when we do that, what's going to happen? It's going to be 10 into 2 is going to be 20a, and 10 into 5 is going to give us 50b, and 10 into 1.5 is going to give us 15, and 5 into 3 is going to give us 15a, and 5 into minus 10 is going to give us minus 50b, and 5 into 42.5 will give us what? 5 into 42.5, that's going to give us 212.5. Now, since we decided to eliminate b and we know both the numbers are same and of opposite side signs, so we can cancel these, and this will turn out to be 20 plus 15 is going to give us 35a is equals to 15 plus 212.5. That's going to give us 227.5. The value of a will be 227.5 over 35, and a turns out to be divided by 35. A turns out to be 6.5. So the value for A is 6.5, and the value for B is going to be what? The value for B will basically be, when we plug in these values in any of the two equations or four equations, since we had four by now, what we're going to do is we select the first equation, 2A plus 5B is equals to 1.5, where the value of A was 6.5. So what we can say is 2 times 6.5 plus 5b is equals to 1.5. So what we can say is 5b is equals to 1.5 into 1.5 minus 2 into 6.5, sorry, 1.5 minus 2 into 6.5, and b would be 1.5 minus 2 into 6.5 over 5, and we get 1.5 minus 2 into 6.5, 6.5 upon 5, and the answer turns out to be minus of 2.3. So this is minus of 2.3, and this was 6.5. So B is what? That is minus of 2.3. Let's solve it. The population of a country increases exponentially at a rate of 3.6% per year. On 1st January 2024, the population of the country is 5.4 million. Calculate the amount of complete years it will take for population to reach 8 million. This is an interesting question of growth rate and decay. We may be seeing a nice concept over here. Now let's see. We need to solve this using growth rate and decay, and we know the formula that future value, or you can say the last value, final value, is equivalent to the present value or the initial value, and it's going to be 1 plus r over 100 power t, the same formula as compound interest, where the future value is going to be 8 million and the present value, initial value, is 5.4 million. So what we can say is it's going to be 8 is equals to 5.4 bracket 1 plus r over 100 power t. Now you may be confused that why did we not use millions in it, because both the units are same, it's not going to make much of a difference. And the rate was 3.6. It's supposed to be 3.6. So what we can say is 8 over 5.4 is equals to 1.036. This bracket is going to give us 1.036 power t. And what is 8 over 5.4? That's going to give us 1.48. So that gives us what? 1.48 is equals to 1.036 power t. Now, what can we do over here? This might be tricky for some students. We need to find the number of years, and we may have not learned any concept over here because this includes logarithms, which may be not part of your syllabus. What we are going to do over here is we are going to do trial and error by assuming values of t. Trial and error. Okay? What are we going to do? We use trial and error. random values. What do I mean? What I mean is that if I do 1.48 and if I use 1.036 power, let's suppose 5. So what does that give me? 1.036, 1.036 in power 5, so that gives me what? That gives me 1.19. Now this gives me 1.19, which means these are not equal, right? So now I'll try to add more such values. So I'll do 1.48 is equals to 1.036 power 10 maybe, and if I use power 10, this gives me what? This gives me 1.42. We are getting closer to each other. So 1.42. Are these two values still equal? No, these are not equal. So maybe a higher value. 1.48, 1.48, 1.48. Is it equals to power 11? Let's see. Equals to 1.036 power 11. So when we use power 11, that gives me 1.47. Now we are there. 1.47.55. Now we may think that this answer is correct. Let's see what the question demands, because it depends on the wordings of the question. It says calculate the complete number of years till it uh, calculate the number of complete years. Sorry, calculate the number of complete years it will take for the population to reach 8 million. So as we can see, this value and this value is not same. That means this value still did not reach 1.48. Hence 11 may not be correct, right? So what we're going to do is we'll do 1.48 is equals to 1.036 power 12, and that power 12 would give me what? That power 12 would give me 1.52. Now this value has exceeded. That means 8 million value, 8 million population has been achieved for the case of 12. So we would say answer is going to be 12 years with the help of this trial and error. I'm sorry. Um, yep. Question 15. Question 15 states that it's x is equal to 2 square into 3n plus 1 into 7, and we need to do y is equal to 2n into 3 and into 7 power 4, where n is a positive integer greater than 2. Find the highest common factor HCF, which is in terms of x and y. Now, what is HCF? It's the highest common factor, but the trickiest thing is, let's see, x is equals to 2, 2 into 3n plus 1 and into 7, and y is what? Y is 2n into 3n into 7, 4. Now, when we are writing HCF, so we select the smallest power of the two. Now, what's the smallest power? That's what we need to have a look at. Now, the smallest power out of these two is going to what? This n is an unknown value, but since it says that n is a value greater than 2, that means it can be 3, 4, 5, or 6. That means 2 square is the smallest value for HCF. So HCF, keep in mind, sorry, it's 2 square. So keep in mind that HCF is the smallest value of the two. The term itself says highest common factor, but when we make pairs, it has to be the smallest value. And then what's the smallest value? Obviously, this is n plus 1, one number greater than n. So that means 3 times n is going to be a smallest value. And then 7 power 1 and 7 power 4. So obviously 7 is a smaller number. So it's going to be 2 square 3n, 2 square into 3n into 7 as the answer. Question number 17. Question number 17 says a point A is the point, A is the point 3 and minus 2, and B is the point 5 and 4. Find the equation of AB. How do we find the equation of AB? It's supposed to be written in y is equals to mx plus c, where m is going to be y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. So we do 4 minus 2 over 5 minus 3. So this is going to give us 6 over 2. That is going to give us 3. So it's going to be y is equal to 3x plus c, where we will be plugging in any of the coordinate sets in this equation. So it's going to be, let's just select 4 and 5. So it's going to be 4 is equal to 3 times 5 plus c, and 4 is equal to 15 plus c, and c is going to be equals to minus 11, and the answer is going to be y is equals to 3x minus 11, because the c will be plugged in over here. Now we need to write the gradient of the line that is perpendicular to a line AB. Now the gradient of AB was what? The gradient of AB was 3. So the gradient of the perpendicular would be what? So gradient of perpendicular would be M of AB is now this would be what? It would be, now this has to be this was negative reciprocal. So since it's a perpendicular bisector, it has to be negative reciprocal. It was 3 over 1, so now it will be 1 over 3. We reciprocate it, and the sign is going to be opposite. So it's going to be minus 1 over 3 for this case. Question number 17 says that the table shows times taken by 80 people to complete a race, and we need to calculate the mean of the time taken to complete the race. Now, how do you complete the race? How do you calculate the mean of completing the race? It's going to be summation of fx over summation of f, and when we solve this, we need to keep in mind that this is the frequency, but we do not know the value x. Now x is going to be the midpoint of this continuous range, so this has to be 25, this has to be 40. 30 plus 50 is 80 over 2, that is 40. 50 plus 60 is 110 over 2, that should be 55. And this should be 60 plus 90, that is 150 over 2, that is 75. I will be multiplying these numbers together, and the answer would be equivalent to fx, because we need to add all the fx's together. And this would be 25 into 20, that's 500. And 40 into 26, 40 into 26 is 1040. And 55 into 29 is 1595. And 75 into 5 is 375. And we will add all the values over here. This is going to be summation fx, that's going to be 500 plus 1040 plus 1595 plus 375, and this is 3510. Now we write 3510 over here. That should be divided by the number of people that were 80. So it's 3510 divided by 80, and it gives us what? 43.875. Now, part B. It says 2 of the 80 people are selected at random. Find the probability that one takes 30 minutes or less and the other takes 60 minutes to complete the race. 60 minutes or more. So let's see what is 30 minutes or less. So this data was 30 minutes or less. That means this frequency, and this is going to be 60 minutes or more, which means this frequency. Now, if we have a look, what this means is we can say that the frequency that the probability should be calculated in a way that if, let's suppose, two people are selected at random, so we find the probability of both and multiply it with 2. Now what's the first probability? The first probability is 30 minutes or less, so the people for 30 minutes and less is going to be, it was 20 over 80. Now if you select one person, so that means you're left with 79 per people, right? So you left with 79 people, and what that means is, for people more than 60 or more, it's 5 over 79, right? So this is going to be the probability for less than 30 and greater than 60, right? But there could be another possible option as well. That can be that you first select greater than 60, and then you select less than 30. So that means this probability should be multiplied by 2 as well, because there were two possible arrangements. And what we're going to do is, it's going to be 2 into 20 into 5 divided by 80 and 79. 80 into 79, that gives us 5 over 158 as the answer. Right? Now let's solve question number 18. Question number 18 seems to be very easy. Now question number 18 states that we need to write as a single fraction in its simplest form. So this is a sign of division, so it's going to be 2x over 3y, and since it's a division, you can write this as multiplication and reciprocate, so it's going to be 9 over 8x. X and x can be cancelled. And this can be further simplified as 1 and 4. This is 1 and this is 4. This is 1 and this is 3. So we can say we are left with 3 over 4 and then y in the denominator. 3 over 4y. Part B states that we need to write this as a single fraction as well in its simplest form. So what we can say is probably we can apply middle term breaking over here, and we'll have to look what we can do for the second case. So it's when we apply middle term breaking, it's going to be 2 into 50. 2 into 50 gives us what? That gives us 100, and we write the factors of 100 that would result in 15. So we can see that it's 1 and 100, 2 and 50, 2 and 53, no, 4 and 25, 4 and 25, and 5 and 20. So 5 and 20 would give us 15. When we add this and subtract 5 from it, so it's going to be 2x squared plus 20x minus 5x minus 50, and then we divide it and we see that this may be an identity that we use. Can we convert this whole into a square number? Yes, we can. So this can be turned into third identity, a square minus b square. So this would be 2x whole square minus 5 square, and this can further be solved as 2x is common. So 2x common, we'll be left with x plus 10, and we take minus 5 is common, we'll be left with x plus 10, and in the denominator we will be having the identity a plus b, a minus b. So it's going to be 2x minus 5 and 2x plus 5. Now when we solve this further, this will be written as, since the two brackets are same, we write it once, so it's going to be 2x minus 5 bracket and x plus 10 divided by 2x plus 5 and 2x minus 5. We know that this and this can be cancelled, so it will be what? X plus 10 over 2x plus 5. That should be the answer, right? Let's discuss question number 19. Question number 19 states that a car travels 320 kilometers correct to the nearest 10 kilometers. This journey takes 5.2 hours correct to the nearest 0.1 hour, and calculate the lower bound of the average speed. How do we calculate lower bounds for average speed? The average speed can be calculated with speed is equals to distance over time. It's total distance over total time. So we can say it can be what? The distance was 320 and the time was 5.2 hours. But keep in mind, we're supposed to calculate the lower bound because these values were rounded off. Now for lower bound, the answer has to be as least as possible. So this has to be the lowest value, and the numerator and the denominator should be greatest. Hence, you will get the lowest answer for average speed. Now, to calculate the lowest possible distance, we need to do what? We need to do 320, and we need to round it off to the nearest 10. This value is rounded off to the nearest 10. So the rounded off to the nearest 10 would be, you change this value to its lowest number, it would be 310, and the middle value is going to be the lower bound. That turns out to be 315. So 315 is my lower bound. Now same goes for 5.2 hours. The time was supposed to be greatest, so 5.2 hours, we need to change 0.1 hours. That means we are supposed to change this into the next digit, which would be 5.3, and the middle value 5.25 would be my upper bound for this case. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to be distance 315 over 5.25, and the answer would be, let's see, 315 divided by 5.25, it's going to be 60 kilometers per hour. Question 20. Question 20 says the diagram shows a triangular field and AB is 65, AC is 75, and angle CAB is 125. Show that BC is 124.3 and this is BC. Now, if you have a look, we have two lengths given. We need to find the third length, and the angle is given as well. That means we will have to use the cosine rule that states a square is equals to b square plus c square minus 2bc times cos of a, where the pair of the lengths and the angle is 125 and this length. So hence this bc would be here. BC square is equals to 65 square plus 75 square minus 2 into 65 into 75 times cos of 125, and whatever the answer is, you're going to take square root of it. Let me see, 65 square plus 75 square minus 2 into 65 into 75 into cos of 125. That gives us 9676. So BC square is 9676 point 98. It's 0.98. And when we take square root of this, the answer would be no, there seems to be some issue. So it's going to be 65 square plus 175 square minus 2 into 65 into 75 into cos of 125, and the answer is, yep, now we have it. Apologies, I think I calculate this incorrectly in the calculator. This is 15442. 15442, and BC is going to be what? That is going to be square root of 15442, 0.37, and the square root of the answer is going to give us 124.26. It's 124.26, that is rounded off to the nearest single decimal place as 124.3, and we'd say what? We'd say it's hence shown. Let's solve part B. Part B says calculate angle ABC, where we know this value to be 124.3, and we need to calculate ABC, which is this angle basically. Now, how can we calculate this angle? We will probably have to use pairs. Now, we know that this angle is a pair to this, and this 125 and 124.3 are pairs as well. We need to find the angles, hence we will be using the formula cos A over A. Let's say cos A over A, it's going to be cos A over A is equals to, no, not sorry, it's not cos, it's the formula of sine rule. That's going to be sine A over A. Sine A over A, and then that should be equivalent to sine B over B. Sine B over B. How do we know we are applying sine rule? Because we have two pairs of lengths and angles where one value is unknown out of the four. So it's going to be sine of 125 over 124.3 is equals to sine of B, which is sine of, do we know this angle? We need to find this angle, right? So it's sine of theta. It's sine of theta over the length B, which is going to be 75, and we multiply 75 on the other side. When we do that, what's going to happen? It's going to be 75 into sine of 125 divided by 124.3, and the answer turns out to be 0.49 for this case. So sine of theta is equals to 0.49, and then we take inverse of it. Theta is equals to sine inverse 0.49, and the answer would be sine inverse answer. It turns out to be 29.62. Let's discuss it further. Part C says calculate the shortest distance of A to BC. Now, how do we calculate part A to BC? Now, let's have a look. Now, shortest distance from A to BC is basically going to be from this point up until any point till BC, that is shortest. But keep in mind, shortest is always formed at the 90 degree at the line. So the line was BC, so this should be 90 degrees over here. We need to calculate this distance, so we will probably be having a look at the triangle at the left hand side, which is going to be like this. We need to calculate A and the midpoint, which means we are supposed to calculate this length, where we know this angle to be 29.62. This was 29.62, and we have this hypotenuse as 65. Now, since this was right angle triangle, we can solve this easily, and this can be solved by using theta is equals to opposite and hypotenuse sine rule. So it's going to be sine theta is equals to x over 65, using the trigonometric ratios of sine theta is equals to opposite over hypotenuse. So sine theta is equals to perpendicular over hypotenuse, where theta is 29.62. So it's going to be sine of 29.62 multiplied with 65, and we should be back getting the value of x, and that will be what? 65 times sine of 29.62. This would be 32.13 as the answer. Let's solve it. Now, question number 21 tells us to rearrange it, and rearranging it would be done in a way that we need to make A the subject. Now, if you want to make A the subject, we need to move it to the other side. So let's say if we move this whole term over on the other side, it's going to be y times 3a minus 1 is equals to 2a plus 5, and this is going to be 3aw minus w is equals to 2a plus 5. We need to make a the subject. Now, since we have two a's, we'll move all the a's on one side. That means this moves over there. It's going to be 3aw minus 2a is equals to 5 plus w, and we will take a as common, so that this turns out to be single term, and that would be 3w minus 2 is equals to 5 plus w, and a would be what? That would be 5 plus w over 3w minus 2, and we have it as the subject, so it should be what? 5 plus w over 3w minus 2. I believe these were the easiest 4 marks to score, right? Now, we need to sketch the graph of y is equals to 2 minus 3x. Now, since we know this is a linear line, we'll compare it with y is equals to mx plus c, and this is going to be y is equals to minus 3x plus 2. We know that the y-intercept is 2. That means it will be passing from the top part at somewhere at the top side of y-axis, and then since this gradient is negative, 3m is equals to negative, so this line would be drawn in this manner. Hence, we draw a straight line with a ruler, something like this. Right now, we do not basically um, write the x-intercepts or anything, because this question is for 1 mark, and the examiner did not expect or want us to write or find the x or y coordinates or the intercepts of this question. Now, this part says 2x squared minus 4x minus 3 in the form. We need to write it in that format of completing squares. So what we're going to do is we need to get rid of this 2. For that, we'll take this 2 as common. We'll be left with, so we are left with this. We take 2 common from here. We can't take 2 common from 3, so we are going to divide it with 2 instead, right? So what I'm going to do is I am going to further apply the brackets, or apply the solution of completing squares with 2, and then we apply small squares, x squared minus 2x, and then it's going to be plus of 2 over 2 square, and the same thing will happen outside the small bracket. It's going to be 3 over 2 minus 2 over 2 gives us 1 square, and that's how you do it. And when you further solve, this is going to be x, the sign and the last number is going to be x minus 1 square minus 3 over 2 minus 1, and this gives us 2 times this would give us what? It would be x minus 1 square minus 5 over 2. And now what do? We open this bracket again, the square bracket, and when we open this, it's going to be 2 times of x minus 1 square minus 2, and 2 will be multiplied, so it will be minus of 5. So it's basically 2 into 5 over 2, where 2 and 2 gets cancelled. So it will be minus of 5, and this is what we get as the answer in the format minus 1 square minus 5. Now, next part says complete the graph, sketch the graph of y is equals to 2x square minus 4x minus 3. Now, what are we going to do for this? For this, we need to know that the general format of completing squares is y is equals to a times x minus h square plus k, as mentioned over here, where this value with a negative sign is going to be what? That is going to be your h comma k is your midpoints, or turning points rather, sorry. H comma k is going to be your turning points. And what's my turning point? It's going to be we can say that it's going to be minus h is equal to minus 1, right? So it's going to be what? Minus h is equal to minus 1, and then k is equal to minus 5. The value of h will be 1, and value of k would be negative 5. So 1 and minus 5 would be somewhere here. 1 and minus 5 would be somewhere here. Let's say this is 1 and minus 5 over here on this side. Now, these are the turning points. Now, it further states that we need to label the y-intercept and the coordinates of the turning points. This is a quadratic graph. The quadratic graph is drawn in either this manner or that manner. How do you figure it out? We figure it out on the basis of a, and since a is positive, it's positive, so it will be drawn in this manner. So we know a rough sketch of this. The graph would be drawn something like this. But at the same time, we need to find the y-intercept, and y-intercept is going to be -3. Or the other way is you can plug in x as 0 and you can find the value from here. It's going to be -3, so it has to pass somewhere over here. We've labeled it and we draw a rough sketch of the graph like this. Now this is going to be the quadratic graph. Question number 23. Question 23 states that we need to solve x over x plus 3 minus 4 over x minus 5. How do you solve this? We just simply cross multiply this, and together. So it's going to be x times x minus 5 minus 4 times x plus 3 over, it's going to be x plus 3 and minus 5 is equals to 1. When we solve this further, x and x would give us x square minus 5x minus 4x minus 12 over x square minus 5x plus 3x and minus 15. That should be equivalent to 1. When we solve this further, it's going to look a bit like minus 5x minus 4x gives us what? That gives us minus 9x. And minus 12 is equals to 1 times of x square minus 2x minus 15. So this one would be multiplied and it would still be the same equation. X square when moved on the other side would be cancelled. So we'll be left with minus 9x minus 12 is equals to minus 2x minus 15. And what we can say is this 2 would move on the other side. So it's going to be minus 9x plus 2x is equals to minus 15 plus 12. So this is going to be minus 15 plus 12 over it's going to be 9 minus 9 plus 2 minus 9 plus 2. That should give us 3 over 7 as the answer. The answer for x is going to be 3 over 7. Let's move on. We need to expand and simplify this case. It seems to be a cubic equation because there are 3 brackets being multiplied and each bracket has a value of x inside of it. So let's solve this part first. The later part, I find it easier when it's a cubic multiplication, and it's going to be x times x. That's going to give us 3x square, and x times 4 is going to give us minus 4x, and 3 times x is going to give us plus 9x, and 3 times minus 4 is going to give us what? That's going to give us minus 12. Going to be x minus 1 is equals to 3x square plus of 5x minus 12. Now we multiply it like this. When you multiply these brackets, so x with each of these terms, and that would give us what? 3x cube plus 5x square minus of 12x, and it's going to be minus 3x square minus 5x and plus 12. When we simplify this further, we can say that 3x cube would be as it is. So it's going to be 3x cube. 5x square and 3x square can be solved. So it will be plus 2x square. When subtracted, minus 12x minus 5x is going to give us minus 17x, and we're left with plus 12 as the last term. So this answer seems to be correct. Let's move on. Question 25 says the diagram shows a cuboid and show that CE is equals to 17.1, correct to one decimal place. What is CE? This part is CE. Now how can we solve this CE over here? Now this CE, this is a concept of 3D trigonometry. Now this CE we need to find, and how can we find this? If we draw an imaginary image of this part and that part, so this would form a right angle triangle over here, and we can say we have a triangle like this where the value is going to be 7 and this value is unknown, and we need to find this value. Now how do you find this? For this we can use the other triangle. Let's see, oh sorry, this was C, E and H. Now what we can do is, now to find this unknown x, we can take another right angle triangle over here at the bottom, that is E, H and G. And we know this value is 10 and we know this as 12, so we can use the Pythagoras theorem, and that would be h square is equal to 12 square plus 10 square, where the value of h would be under root of 12 square plus 10 square, and the answer would be what? Let me check it real quick. Under root 12 square plus 10 square, that gives me 15.62. So this value for h is going to be 15.62, it's going to be the same for this case, 15.62 as well, because that was the unknown x which you're trying to find. So this is 15.62. Now we'd apply the same concept of h square is equals to perpendicular square and base square, that is 15.62 square plus 7 square. And what happens next is basically h is equals to root of 15.62 square plus 7 square, and that would give us what? Under root of 15.62 square plus 7 square, and that gives us 17.11. The answer is 17.11, which is what we're supposed to prove correct to one decimal place, I believe, and we can say it's going to be 17.1, hence shown, right? Let's solve part. Oh, this seems to be the last question for today, and it says calculate the angle between the line CE and base EFGH. Now, this is the line CE. Have a look, guys. This is the line CE, and this is the base EFGH. And the angle that we're supposed to calculate is between the base and the line, which means we will be finding the angle over here between its imaginary image EG and the angle between EG and EC. So this is what you're supposed to do, EG and EG. Since this is what the examiner demands, it's going to be EG and EC. Sorry, EG and EC. So we found out CE to be it was what? It was 17.1. This is what we proved. It was 17.1, and this is the height we know as 7, and we need to find this angle. We mark this is going to be C, G, and E. Now, why are we finding the angle with just the imaginary yeah, camera's focus, sorry. So why are we finding the angle between EG and CE, and why not the base? Because we cannot find an angle between the base and a straight line at this O level levels at this age. So what we are going to do is we find the angle between two lines, and which is going to be this theta. And how can we find this? It's going to be theta is equals to opposite over hypotenuse. This seems to be trigonometric ratio of sine as well. So it's going to be sine theta is equals to 7 over 17.1, and you can do an inverse of it, and this should be what? This should be sine inverse of 7 over 17.1, because we want to find theta. It should be sine inverse of 7 over 17.1, and that would give us what? That would be 24.16. So here we go, 24.16. That rounds off to 24.2. So that seems to be it, guys. I think we're done with the paper, and have fun. That's about it for now. Let me know if there's any other paper that you'd want me to solve. Till then, take care. Bye bye.